Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at equivalent fractions. I want to take a look at these, at the problem that is depicted by this picture. I would like for you to shade in one of the sections in the first circle and one of the sections in the second circle. And so what we're trying to solve here is the problem 1/4 plus 1/2. And the reason I want you to look at this picture is I want you to see that we have two different size pieces. That's what makes this a challenge. And so what we're going to need to do is rewrite at least one of these equations as an equivalent fraction so that we can accurately add these two amounts. So what I would like you to do on this second circle, I would like you to divide using or create another set of sections here by drawing this horizontal line. And so what we've done is we've taken that 1/2 and we have now written it as 2/4. So we could write 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Because what I've done is I've taken this one shaded section out of the whole and I've now made it two sections out of the whole that has been broken into 4 pieces. Now that's kind of a complicated way to say that, but what I want to point out is I think a lot of students remember that, hey, you know, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you need to find like denominators. But what you're doing is you're creating the same size pieces because that denominator is saying how many pieces that whole has been broken into. And so we want to rewrite 1/2 as 2/4 so that at that point we can say 1/4 plus 2/4 is equal to 3/4. I think many of us knew that in that problem, but we no longer need the 1/2 once we have written it as 2/4. So what we're doing there is again writing equivalent fractions, and in doing it this way we are raising to higher terms in order to write that like denominator, and we used our skill of multiplying here. We multiplied both the numerator, we took 1 times 2, and then we took the denominator times 2. So this is the ticket in writing an equivalent ratio. Now this is where you would need to be able to write equivalent ratios, or one of the places that you would need it. I want to move on to a couple problems where we're just practicing this. 3/4, I need to rewrite it with a denominator of 12 for whatever reason. So I have to examine, how did I get from 4 to 12? What do I multiply by? I multiply by 3. That means I'm going to have to multiply the numerator by 3. So 9/12 is equivalent to 3/4. And we're not going to draw the picture out here. You can do that. There's space here if you would like to. 4/5, and I need to rewrite it with a denominator of 20. So I have to ask, how did I get from 5 to 20? I multiplied by 4. So I'm going to do that with the numerator. From here, how did I get from here? From 1/3 to a denominator of 24, I would have to multiply by 8. So I'm going to do the same thing with the numerator. With the denominator, I multiplied by 8 by 4 to get to 32, so I'm going to have to do the same thing here. Okay, so again, this is the ticket in writing equivalent ratios. But you can see that you had to analyze your denominators to figure out how did you get there. That's what you're taking a look at. Okay, so that's one skill in writing equivalent fractions. Now we're going to write equivalent fractions where we are reducing to lower terms. And very often we do this at the end of a problem to simplify our answer. So this is a simplifying skill, and we do this by dividing. So it's a little bit different approach. We're going to be looking at fractions here. I've got 10/12. I need to analyze, how did I get from, well, actually I need to analyze this and say what common factor do they have that I can divide from both numerator and denominator and reduce to lower terms. Both of these are even numbers, so I know that I can reduce them both by 2. So I'm going to divide both numerator and denominator by 2, and I will get 5/6. The next one, I'm going to look at both 24 and 30. I know that 6 goes into both of those, so I can divide both numerator and denominator by 6, and I will get 4/5. This one here, I can see that both of those are multiples of 4, so I can divide both numerator and denominator by 4, and I will get 1/4. Here I can divide by 5, and I would end up with 3/5. So again, this is the ticket here that you're dividing both numerator and denominator by the same number to get an equivalent fraction just in lowest terms. Now on this next one, we can look at this a couple different ways. I can say that I'm dividing both numerator and denominator by 3. I'm sorry, by 4 to get 3 over 1, and then 1 goes into 3 times, or I can just go ahead and just eliminate this process and say 4 goes into 12 3 times. Same thing here, I can say 8 goes into 8 1 time. So that's really using your converting from an improper fraction to a mixed number. It's just that you only have a whole number, you don't have any fraction left over. So on the remaining ones here, we're going to practice a couple different things. We've got 18 over 45, and this is where you kind of have to have your multiplication facts. So if you're struggling with those, you might want to go back and do that multiple activity that we did on our first day. So 18 divided by 18 and 45 are multiples of 9, so I can divide them both by 9. I'm just going to write it one time up here. 18 divided by 9 is 2. 45 divided by 9 is 5. Now in this one here, 38 is kind of a big number. I know 18 and 38 are both even, so I know I can divide them both by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 38 divided by 2 is 19. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And so now I'm looking at that going, whoa, this is also improper. So I can do that reduction. 9 goes into 19 2 times with 1/9 left over. On this one here, 72 and 27, those are kind of big numbers. I've got that they can both be divided by 9, so I might as well go with that. 72 divided by 9 gives me 8. 27 divided by 9 gives me 3. Now I recognize that 3 can go into 8 2 times with 2 left over. So I converted from an improper fraction to a mixed number after I reduced. So many times you will do both of these skills. This next one, 48. 48 and 40, both are divisible by 8. I'm going to go with that. That would give me 6/5, and again 5 goes into 6 one time with 1/5 left over. This one here, these are both divisible by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 36 divided by 4 is 9th, and that's all I can do with that one. Here I just recognize it's top heavy right out of the gate. 7 goes into 42 6 times, and I have nothing left over. So you have to be flexible in how you reduce.